Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at A Rasp of Sand, which is a tabletop RPG zine that I backed on Kickstarter about a year or so ago during the last Zine Quest project. So this is a zine that's focused on dungeon crawling. You're exploring a underwater temple. Well, I mean, you're on an island, so it kind of goes below the island. The whole temple itself is not underwater, but there is a lot of underwater themes to it. And one of the focuses it has is being roguelike, in that you take multiple journeys to get through it and you're dying a lot and then repeating over and over again. Very interesting concept. Before we get into it though, a quick shout out to my patrons over on Patreon who help support this whole channel. And a reminder that this channel is supported by the Questing Beast newsletter, which is a completely free way for you to sign up and get updates on some of the cool new things happening in the OSR scene, whether that's on podcasts or blog posts or videos. It's hard to keep track of everything, and the Questing Beast newsletter does that for you for free. So you can head down to the description below and check that out for yourself if you like. So let's look at what we get here in A Rasp of Sand. The writing and layout and illustration was done by Dave Cox. And the cover art is done by Ma Ko, who is a really cool illustrator that I've seen a lot on Instagram and Twitter. It's really nice to see that in an actual RPG book. Interior illustration done by Jake Morrison. So like I said, the idea here is that it is a roguelike. And the system that this uses is explicitly Knave, which, in the interest of full disclosure, Knave is a rule set that I created. It's a highly simplified and streamlined version of old school D&D. I'll put a link to it right up here at the top if you want to check out a video overview of that for yourself. But it does work just fine with basically any version of old school D&D. The idea here is that there is an island, and you are trying to take a crown back to the bottom of this temple on the island. This crown has been lost and it must be returned to lift this curse, a curse from the land. So you're going to go through multiple levels all the way down to the bottom. However, it's very difficult and you're frequently going to die along the way. And if you die, or if you simply fail for whatever reason, then your run is over, and the next time that you would tackle this same dungeon, you will play as one of the descendants of the previous person who was there. We have family creation here. So you have your family name and your trade. We have lots of different trades here that all come with a variety of special abilities. Academics, cooks, entertainers, fishers, magicians, merchants, priests, sailors, slug ranchers, smiths, smugglers, and warriors. The layout of this is quite well done. I think my only complaint is the kind of light green headers for some of these. It doesn't work very well with a really thin white lettering. Actually makes it kind of hard to read sometimes. But apart from that, it's very well designed and very easy to read. We have some random tables here, very similar to what I wrote in Knave, for randomly generating your characters very quickly. And a variety of equipment here. Air advancement. So when there's a resource called sand, and whenever a living creature dies, they leave behind their memories and experiences as fine pearlescent grains of sand. Every 1 unit of sand corresponds to 1 XP. So by collecting sand in the dungeon, you get XP. Creatures drop a unit of sand equal to their hit dice times 100. And people can use it as money as well. One cool thing is that because it contains memories, the idea here is that when your character dies, your heir, the next character that you play, has been able to gather the sand from their ancestor and ingest it, therefore ingesting their memories. So this gives a kind of in-world justification for why your next character remembers all of the things that they do. So you're not metagaming. Your character literally remembers their previous life. I think that was kind of neat. How to create a new heir. And how to do exploration. So the dungeon or the temple here that you're exploring, trying to get all the way to the bottom, is randomly generated. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll a location, add that to a situation, and that creates your new room. This reminds me a lot of the system that we see in Emmy Allen's books, The Gardens of Yin and the Stygian Library, where you're combining two different elements here to create a new location. We have our basic levels here, the pelagic, the reef, the kelp forest, twilight, and the trench. So these are the 5 levels of the temple going downward, getting steadily darker and more dangerous. We have a very kind of rigid, almost gamified system for how you do exploration. There are 3 different things the group may do in an exploration turn, and it lays it out here. So it's almost a little bit board gamified as you're exploring this environment. I'm going to skip to the back here because there is a picture at the back of basically what you're doing. You're creating these maps as you go with rooms connected like this. It's very abstract. There aren't actual pictures of the rooms. It simply gives you a room with a number of corridors attached to it, and then you just decide which corridor you're going down and explore the next room. Eventually, you've randomly determined at the beginning of the game how many rooms they need to go through before they go to the next level. So they need to keep exploring until they find the exit down. Here's how different rooms are laid out. You have the number of hallways, how dangerous it is. If there's plus marks, then I think you're rolling with advantage. Basically, you're to make things more dangerous. The types of encounters are going to be worse. There's going to be description and some weird effects that it might have. Your universal rooms are the plunge, which is the starting location, and then the octopod workshop, which is kind of a safe zone that can be found scattered around the dungeon as a place to rest. So we have a basic location table here, 12 different rooms, and then we have a table of some traps that we can put in here, and an encounter table. If you're causing a lot of noise, you can run into stuff, or if you just take too long, right? A certain amount of time spent in the dungeon, especially for causing noise, can cause encounters to show up. Some of these have sub-tables to generate more variety as you play through it. I really like that. It's going to be very unlikely to have 2 levels come out the same way twice. In fact, it's going to be virtually impossible. The order that the rooms are in are always different, and then the situations that you add to them are going to add further variety. The situations are further on in the book, all the way down here. So we have situations. And there are, let's see, it's a random table that goes up to 20 for types of situations. These add basically modifications to the rooms to add more spice to them. So it could be that they are open for business. Perhaps there is a secret there. Perhaps there is a feeding frenzy going on, or there is a sunken shrine there. So there's always lots of variety. We have a random encounter table that's different for every single level. So this is basically a system for generating a dungeon as you play. A lot of game elements are packed into a very small space just because of the way that things can be combined. That's a smart way to do it, to get a lot of play value out of a fairly low page count book. The Deep Queen's Throne is the very end of the dungeon. When you get down to the bottom, you can either return the crown to where it used to be, or you can refuse to return the crown and deal with the consequences of that. You're going to have to fight the queen. We have a section for creatures of the deep. Again, this is laid out using Knave's basic system, but easily adaptable to others. You have your hit dice. Your hit dice is, of course, your hit points, but can also be turned into an attack bonus. You have your morale, which is basically standard basic D&D morale. It's fairly self-explanatory. We have your armor defense. That's basically like your armor class. We have cannon shrimp, shells, cutlers, elacondas, lots of marine flavored animals, which is nice. There aren't a lot of dungeons that have this very marine flavor to them. Mimic fish, octopods, rainbow shrimps, reef golems. A very wide variety of monsters, much more than you typically get in a book this size. I like the variety there. We have some extra random tables at the back here that you may use depending on the room that you're in. Some rooms call for you to flip back here and roll on a random table. Some cool loot. So for example, glass jars, they're big enough for slugs. There's a lot of weird slugs here that you're going to want to collect. A fishing rod and tackle, if you want to fish for things. We have some shrines, each shrine to one of the gods, the table associated with it. So they can give you, looks like boons or banes, depending on how you do with your prayers there. Some weird treasures. So an anchor with an unusually long shank. I like how the title is just a long description. So let's see what this one says. The wielder is not affected by involuntary movement. That's really useful. So basically anchors you to one place. A horn made of tarnished brass that has the image of a lighthouse inscribed into it. When blown, it makes no noise, but a thick fog billows out. So just great, useful magic items that are designed to create, to allow you to do creative problem solving, is a good way to put it. Some weird corals you might find. Slug generation. And we have spells. So this spell system is based on Knave. A lot of these spells are from Knave, although it's a bit shorter. It's 75 spells instead of the 100, and looks like quite a few of them have been altered or added specifically for this setting. Really cool. And it also looks like the general principle has been kept, where most of these spells are not damage causing. The focus is, again, on problem solving and being creative and thinking out of the box instead of trying to smash your way through everything in your way. All right, so there we go. That is a Rasp of Sand. It's really cool. It has a lot packed into a small space. I mean, I have to admit that I'm biased, and I like the fact that it's based on Knave, but it also has a lot of replayability. You can go back again and again, always find a new dungeon to explore with new situations, with new monsters, and then when you combine that with the spells and the weird magic items, you're going to have a lot of interesting tools with which to solve problems. So I really like that about it. I'll put links down below where you can check it out for yourself. And as always, let's see, we need to have a comment for the day. How about down in the comment section, create some sort of marine monster that we haven't seen before in D&D. Something that can attack you at the bottom of the ocean, but let's add a twist that this thing is also a danger if you're on land or on the shore. Since I think that would be more gameable, and that's going to be more common in D&D games. Let's see what we can come up with below. As usual, I'll go down into the comments and I will be commenting and liking stuff that I think is especially interesting or well written. All right, that's it for today. See you guys next time.